Welcome to episode 66 of Think Big with Michael Zellner. All positive, no politics. My guest today is Alexandra Trevisan. Alexandra is the owner of Alexandra Trevisan Inc. She is a digital brand and business coach, a behavior and wellness coach, and she's also a chiropractor. She attended Wake Forest University, where she received her Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Religion, and she also received her Doctorate of Chiropractic from Southern California University of Health and Sciences in Whittier, California. Thanks for joining me today, Alexandra.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
That most people don't know. I feel like I'm a pretty open book, so I have to think about this a little bit harder. Um, that people don't know.
What about the condiments?
Oh my God, I was literally thinking that. And I was like, well, the people are like close to me know that, but yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like a texture thing. Maybe it's like a Frankenfood thing. The fact that it's not a real food, but like I don't eat condiments and I eat salad dressing, but I don't eat condiments because salad dressing is based in like olive oil and things that are, from the earth.
Right.
But like ketchup, mustard, relish, like I can't eat it. People are like, what do you put on your fries? I'm like, nothing. Hot dog,
Salt.
nothing. Yeah, salt.
Interesting. That's, when I saw that, I was like, that's the first person I've ever met that didn't
I
like me,
know.
but it's interesting.
Everyone says that. I used to have like FOMO as a kid. I would like dip my fries in my bag and pretend it was ketchup, but there's nothing
That's
on it
funny.
because I was like, I want to like it, but I hate it.
That is funny. What are some of your best memories of your childhood growing up in Charlotte?
Probably honestly, we would always go to the beach. My family, we had a beach house in Marco Island, Florida. And so we would go down there every summer. And it was just like my families are big beach people. And so the beach was always kind of like a happy place, safe space, and a place where we could effectively unplug. And so Marco Island was kind of that special place for a little while. And after we sold it years down the line, we continued that tradition, but changed locations, but stayed in the South and went to the beach.
Awesome. It seems like you've always had a pretty strong work ethic. You got straight A's in school. You made the dean's list at Wake Forest, and there's people that I know that who were just great students, and it just came naturally to them. And then there were others that, in order to be great, they studied extremely hard and were always in the books, and they were rewarded with good grades for that. Which one were you, or were you somewhere maybe in the middle?
Um, I I think a little bit of both, but I definitely think it came really naturally for me. Like I'm almost like anxious or unfulfilled if I'm not like working towards growth. Like that's just my natural state of affairs. And so growing up, I was always more I played sports, but I was always more hungry for like academic success than I was for competitive and athletic success. And like I said, I mean, I played sports year round. I was definitely still active, but getting straight A's was not that hard, but also was super fun. Like I enjoyed it. I'm a nerd like that. And I think, that kind of transitioned into life with entrepreneurship. I think you see that correlation sometimes. And also with just the path of going to a good university and then transitioning to immediately to grad school. It's like I almost didn't want to stop going to school because I loved it because it was just a container for limitless growth and expansion. And I was good at it.
You probably got, I guess we call maybe a school high off of it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I never heard that, but definitely, I mean, still have it now. I just in a different form. It's in, working on my business and myself. Love to learn.
You were also, you're a very giving person. You gave a lot of yourself, and during your time at Wake Forest, you also went to the University of Cape Town in South Africa. And while you were there, you're involved in Habitat for Humanity. You worked with underprivileged kids, teaching them basic math and English in local townships there. And you also worked with the Students Health and Welfare Organization on campus too. What was it like working with those children and helping people in a faraway country that you never met before?
I think what was the most confronting thing about, I mean, being in South Africa, being in Cape Town, but also working with the the underprivileged population was the stark wealth disparity and the conversations and interactions around race. That's very, very different from in the States. Like there's a lot of, things that have to do with classism and racism and whatever it is, like interwoven into the infrastructure of the United States. Whereas in South Africa, it's just like, nope, it's in front of your face. This is how it is. This is how it's not. You go here, you go here. And it's very, very confronting. And it was just like a different paradigm to operate from. And I don't know, it's like that general notion of we're all one and we're all together and we're all in this together, that we all feel deep down in our human nature, but especially when we travel, like when you're in a foreign place and you're just like, oh my gosh, I see like the humanity in you. But to see that in working in an underprivileged situation and circumstance where all of those other variables that I previously mentioned were so at the forefront of everything, it was, humbling and just expansive in a weird way.
You graduated from Southern Cal University in 2018. In 2019, you opened up your own chiropractic business. And, one of the interesting things I read about you was that you placed rock tape on your client's back to help them remember to maintain good posture. And you said, quote, while it does not hold the patient's posture in place, it cues the brain to send signals to the musculature to activate, unquote. That's pretty dang cool. How did you come up with that technique?
Well, a lot of what you learn in chiropractic school and what you learn about, facilitating sustainable care and holistic care and root cause medicine is like to dismantle the codependency between the physician and the patient, right? And that's like not what's being talked about in mainstream medicine. That's not what's being talked about in allopathic medicine at all. And even in chiropractic medicine and things like that, it's like, okay, you're reliant on me for the adjustment. And it never sit correctly with me to perpetuate this story of disempowerment where you need me, right? And so that's probably part of the reason why I didn't love chiropractic, because there was like a little bit of like, you literally need my hands. But then, and I slowly started, going towards sports medicine and functional movement and everything that you just mentioned it when I had my own clinic and I wasn't under the supervision of someone else's protocol. And rock tape is a really big name in sports medicine. And it's like KT tape. I prefer rock tape. It holds a little bit sturdier. But instead of just holding something in place and doing the job for someone, like an ankle brace or a little bit more of a lax of a wrist brace or whatever you may think of for stabilization purposes, if you just place tape in certain positions, that just serves as a little reminder for the patient. It makes them activate something on their own. So instead of being reliant completely on a brace or completely on tape or completely on me, instead it introduces this conversation of empowerment. It's like, oh, I have to do something to get better. And now I have something reminding me, because it's tapping me on my shoulder, on my, my postural muscles to lean back and keep my chest up and have good posture. But I have to do it. Like I have to take responsibility. And I think the underlying reason for me going in that direction with chiropractic and eventually with my career was that I am just so much more lit up and fueled by perpetuating conversations of empowerment and taking responsibility. And so instead of just taping someone and saying, go back on the field and play and then come back when you're done, it's like, no, go learn how to actually use your body correctly. This will be a tool to help you do that. Then come back, let's go to the next level.
Great. Within a year and a half or so that you had your two chiropractic offices in the Los Angeles area, things changed for you on the inside. You said, quote, while working as a successful chiropractor, I started to feel like something was off. Life felt boring and monotonous. I was living on a loop, always fantasizing about my next trip. I felt stagnant, like I was underutilizing my natural talents and capabilities. I worked hard only to crave rest. I was in a cycle of perpetual burnout, unquote. It sounds like that you were probably really in your head. And however, anyone who made straight A's, went to the top tier university, made the dean's list, got through 7 years of school, became a doctor of chiropractic by the age of just 25 is not someone who will be down for long and will figure things out. Isn't that right?
Yeah, 100%. I took action real quick after that.
How did you take action? What were some of the first steps that you did?
I mean, it started by just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what stuck. Like, I thought at first I wanted to go back to get my PhD. And so I started just cold emailing all of these professors to talk about their research. And because I studied the academic study of religion at Wake in undergrad, so I was like, okay, that what lights me up? Like what actually fires me up? And it's like, okay, talking about, how religion influences society and mindset and behavior and thing and spirituality and comparisons of Eastern traditions and Western traditions and how we can, integrate those in the secular world. And it's all this really academic conversation. But like we've established, I'm a pretty big nerd. So I like that kind of thing. And so it started by me just kind of cold emailing them and cold calling them and having conversations with them. And at the same time, I was on a little bit of a personal development journey and like, handling my own personal power and mental health and everything. And so I had started learning about the law of attraction and living this unconventional lifestyle and nomadically and remote and everything. And I was like, how could I talk about this shit that I love all day, but also like have a lifestyle that is exhilarating all day? So I started a podcast. Well, that was my main big thing in the beginning, but I just interviewed the PhDs in the academic study of religion, and it was really self-serving. It was great, but people weren't interested in that because it's so above people's head. Like we're
Right.
talking about academic research in the Middle East. It's like what? And I love it, but I'm like, okay, this is kind of one-sided. Like this isn't I don't feel like there's sustainable satisfaction unless there's a dance of reciprocity. It's like giving and taking, giving and taking. And it was just really me taking because I was giving so much in the direction of chiropractic that wasn't satisfying me. So the podcast kind of evolved into talking to more, spiritual entrepreneurs and people in that sort of space and talking about mental health in a bit more of an esoteric way. And that kind of evolved into doing some online events, doing some online masterminds, which eventually evolved into coaching. But I really just followed the breadcrumbs, like one thing at a time. And it's like, okay, this fires me up. This fires me up. Okay. It's like, I'm going to take what I like from this and leave it and then keep going. And it's like, it was a process of unfolding as opposed to an instantaneous discovery of what I was supposed to be doing.
Quote, my inner zest has always been palpable. At 15, a coach told my parents I could talk the devil out of hell. I've been voted most spirited twice, once by at 18 by my senior class, and again at 25 by my professors at grad school. A fire within me has ever been burning. Not knowing how to channel my fire led to spiritual and emotional turmoil, anxiety, depression, and stuck as a victim for so long, letting waves of emotion determine my life. Only after I was fed up with my own crap did I harness my fire and stand in my power. My power is the creator of my experience, not the victim of it, unquote. Having been there myself before in that, quote, victim mentality, it's not easy at all when you feel that way. And then you add in the depression and the other stuff too. And it takes a ton of, desire and determination to get yourself out of it and, to be able to move forward in life. And you did that. How were some of the ways you were able to do that?
Honestly, I think a lot of it started in the body, and like looking back, it makes so much sense. But and part of I think me even going to chiropractic school was like a person, like part of my own healing, And even during chiropractic school, I had like a tumultuous relationship with my mental health and personal power, but starting by taking care of my sleep, by, minimizing, like I stopped smoking weed. I like had less caffeine in my life, like less coffee, I was always relatively healthy. Like I was pretty cognizant about what I ate and exercise throughout my whole life. But I mean, I really dialed it in because I had to cater to how I felt in my body with my anxiety. I was always on like panic attack and like on the verge of panic attack mode. And so it started with a lot of catering to my body, which eventually started catering to my more of my general energy and my general, boundaries of what this people and circumstances and situations and activities that would either make me feel, more lit up or more drained, and just cultivating the skill of discernment to say yes to the things that helped me feel safe and good in my body and no to the things that didn't. And I mentioned earlier, that's also the same time I kind of found law of attraction. And for so long, I was a devout atheist. I was a nihilist. I was like, nothing matters. Like religion is a crutch for the weak and all that whole thing. And not that I'm religious now, but I mean, finding spirituality in the way put into the terms of where it's like, it's all energy and it all comes back to your energy is in the dance with the universal collective energy. And that's what matters. And kind of surrendering to some bigger life force, whatever word you want to call that, universe, love, light, God. And so kind of my coming to spirituality with that, and also taking ownership around my boundaries, my responsibilities, and how I felt in my physical body.
I love your positive yet bluntness attitude. And you said, quote, and what this boils down to is really when you over identify with your bullshit stories of how you're not good enough. Mommy didn't love me. He broke my heart. Daddy left when I was little. I have low back pain. All you do is perpetuate more bullshit. You constantly beat the drum of this bad shit happened. So it must mean I'm doomed, unquote. The more you play this tune, the more you believe it, and you notice circumstances that perpetuate this, unquote. We all know that there are people out there who were born and raised in a horrible situation where their parents are not present. Their surroundings are beyond horrible, and they don't have any role models for so many in those situations. And it's just what they're around is just all they know. And, for most people, though, it's not the case. I had a psychologist years ago that told me this, and I've always remembered it. He said, there's a point in time where your parents end and you begin.
Mm.
And I mean, there are so many people at times out there where so many times you can continuously blame mommy and or daddy for the rest of your life. At some point, the old saying is true, if it's going to be, it's up to me. Isn't that right?
100%. And I mean, it's all valid, everything that you mentioned, like people just not having access to these kinds of conversations. I mean, thank God for technology and for
Sure.
this podcast and social media. People love to hate it, but it's like, oh my God, it's the age of information, right? It's like there is access. If you have a phone, if you don't have a phone, like get one. You can get one pretty quick and figure that out. But it's like it's so unfortunate that we're surrounded by these disempowering stories and it's all we know and it's all we see. But at the same time, I think that that's the hero's journey of coming back home to yourself and being like, oh my God, like enough with the darkness. Like I can't anymore. I can't fucking let that win. And I think that's when people have a breakdown, but which is actually a breakthrough, And
Right.
some people that's a midlife crisis. Some people that's when they have puberty. Some people everyone's on their own timeline.
You've talked about how there's been points in your life where you were scared. You said, quote, everyone is scared, but not everyone is brave, unquote. What does that mean to you?
Everyone, I think it was Marianne Williamson, the famous quote that's like, we're not scared of our darkness. What we're really scared is our light, our greatness. And like everyone is scared to leave comfort in what is like mediocrity and maybe quote unquote good to actually figure out what the fuck they're made of, because they're scared of failing. They're scared of reopening the abandonment wound, the rejection wound, the not enough wound, the just the self-worth, the human wound of inadequacy, because it hurts, it's uncomfortable to push yourself from something that's going just fine, but to the next level of this is actually what the fuck I want, and this is what I'm made of, and this is great, and it gets to be all of that because I'm so scared of the failure, because I'm so scared of finding the evidence of I'm not good enough when I go for it and it doesn't work. But the difference between people who make it and it don't make it is not what I just said. I mean, in the quote earlier before this one, it's like not letting the bullshit win. It's like every single person that tries to do something new. Like when I tried my first neck adjustment, like I was so scared. Obviously, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm hurting people right now. Like, this is terrible. I don't know. Like, or, tries to start a business or tries to lose weight or tries to go dating after a divorce, or like every single person is fucking scared. Obviously, like that's just it. Like love, it can't exist without fear. It just is what it is. And so the bravery comes when you choose to have the courage and compound that over time And then confidence comes from that, but it takes time. And so everyone has the fear, but the people who make it is who decide to transmute that fear and use, like, pull on their skill of bravery and become confident in whatever that thing is.
What has been the biggest challenge that you've overcome in your life?
Honestly, probably my whole mental health journey, my mental health crisis. I mean, I had two pretty big spells of like severe anxiety, severe depression, like not eating, medicated, like couldn't do basic tasks in life. And it was just like, I don't, I just like didn't want to continue, it was, and it was multifactorial. Anything painful is multifactorial. It's not just X equals Y. And so it's hard to nail down which variables played the biggest role in that sort of mental health crisis. But I think it really just came down to living in the deep victimhood and not being exposed to conversations about empowerment and personal power. And so just going through mental health also really at a really young age, like 17, 18 years old, when people weren't really talking about that yet. It wasn't
Right.
really mainstream. Like I have anxiety. They're like, get over it. Like that was just, what people said, and like where I came from and what I was surrounded by. I felt like too sensitive because I was having, all of this shit happen. And so it took me longer than obviously I wanted it to kind of handle it. And not to say that it doesn't come up here and there and in moments, but it's not winning. It's never winning anymore. And so I think just really, really, deciding, okay, I'm going to figure this out. Like after it hit me kind of the second time.
It
And
takes a really strong person to talk about mental health. I mean, we're in a society today where you said it is more prevalent that people do, but so many times people are afraid to do it because they're afraid of how they're going to be judged by people.
yeah.
And I was told, by that same psychologist years ago that people who get help and talk to someone are much stronger than those that don't.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And reaching out, and especially even, I think it's even more prevalent that men are afraid because they think it's not macho, it's not cool and everything. And I'm like, I've had several people on, mindfulness coaches and different people that talk about mental health and say, getting out there and getting the help and figuring it out is the way to go. And you just got to do it because it does help if you're willing to put in the work.
100%. And I mean, it's so true just with the masculine paradigm of leadership and, having to be strong and having to be macho, like you mentioned, it's very real, but that's such a distorted masculine energy, right? Like a true masculine leadership is safe and grounded and respectful and in tune with like the emotional intelligence of who they are. And I think part of that is like the reawakening of the feminine energy that's happening. I mean, what's happening in Iran and just, the power of women fighting back, but in a feminine way,
Right.
and part of that is not for femininity to win over masculinity. It should all be integrated, but it's part of that distorted masculine to be integrated with a healthy feminine, to be integrated with a healthy emotional conversation and responsibility over, rage and anger and depression and anxiety that are at play, and feeling safe to handle that.
You said, quote, sleep has always been such an inconsistent thing for me that over time I figured out what my body needed in order to sleep most effectively. So my earplugs and eye mask have become requirements for optimal sleep because good sleep makes absolutely everything better, unquote. I was talking on a podcast with a nutritional coach. Actually, it was just yesterday about the subject of sleep. And some people say they can, function just fine in 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. And I just don't think that that's sustainable long term, though. And the difference between getting a good night's sleep and not getting one makes a huge difference on how effective you are on so many levels, doesn't it?
100%. I was just thinking about this earlier, actually, because I got a really good night's sleep last night, thank God. But like, there's all this work in the personal development industry about, not about being okay and about retaining your center no matter what, right? Like, no matter if you got a bad night's sleep, no matter, if the finances aren't there, like, no matter if the relationship's going crazy, like, but being able to hold your center. And I was thinking, I was like, I am the one thing I'm still hugely codependent on in my life is sleep. And I don't really feel bad about it, because I'm like, yeah, I can keep my center to a certain extent if I don't sleep well. But if you want me to perform and like add value and like to take responsibility for someone else, like in my career, in my job, in my personal life, sleep is like a absolute non-negotiable. It is the queen of wellness. Like I had patients as a chiropractor, they're like, what's the best way to sleep? I'm like, it actually doesn't fucking matter. Like you need to sleep however you can sleep, because if you're not sleeping, you're not getting better. Like that is that. And so I'm shameless about my love for sleep and my codependency on it, because it's just the best.
Quote, this is the absolute best advice I can give anyone. I give it to myself, my friends, and my clients. It's this: work backwards, unquote. Tell us about what that statement of yours means.
So I think I've always been wired this way. And I think because I've been programmed for success, I think that's just part of my duty and my calling in this life. And so I've always just like I don't know anything else. I just know success. I'm like 6 years old. I'm like, I'm gonna be a lawyer, I'm gonna be killing it, whatever. And so obviously the definition of success has evolved since then. But just like getting what I want at the end of the day, and getting compensated for it. And so my whole life, like there was this like looming energy of success that was just non-negotiable, because it's just what's going to happen. And that's just, I'm unavailable for it to not happen. So, naturally I got good grades. Naturally, I participated in extracurriculars. Naturally, I got a doctorate. Naturally, I started my own business. I followed my truth, whatever. And so, but all of my actions, all of anything I've done has been in order to get the thing at the end of the rainbow, in quotes, right? Which is like the success, because that I just have this knowingness that's inexplicable in my heart and in my soul, that that's just the way it is for me. And so when I went to, become a chiropractor and especially become a coach, and I initially coached on passion and purpose and wellness a little bit. And that transitioned into more branding and business, because I'm drawn towards, the people with the big dreams, the people that want to have empires, the people that would know that they're just coded for success and it just is what it is, right? Which is very different than just relationship coaching and, figuring out what you want. But to work backwards is to know what you actually want at the end of the day. Right. And again, like I said, my success definition has changed so much. That started only monetarily, but now it means, time freedom, like a geographical freedom. I can work from anywhere in the world. I can, I have relationships that feel safe and amazing, like platonically, romantically, family, like there's so much to that. But in order to get that, I have to effectively say yes and no to what need to say yes and no to, that is in line with that vision of success. And so before we decide, we live on autopilot so much. And so it's like, we're unhappy in our friendships, or we're unhappy in our jobs, or we're unhappy in our relationship or with our body. It's like, well, what do you want? What do you actually want? What's your success in the thing that you keep harping on? Know that, and then reverse engineer it. What do you need to do to get there?
This is what one of your clients said of you. It's long, but it's worth reading. Quote, when I started working with Alexandra, I was very unsure of myself. I didn't think I could successfully get a job that I liked, start working toward a goal of writing a book, or even just become financially independent so that I could change my current relationship. I was feeling very behind, stuck. And after being a stay-at-home mother for most of my adult life, so trying to build a career at 30 became a daunting task. I can say that now at the end of our time together, I really do feel like I have everything under control. She helped me create a detailed plan to accomplish everything I've ever dreamed of. She supplied wisdom and experience for areas I needed extra help in, and taught me modalities to handle my stress or negative feelings that come up throughout the process. I now have a job at a great company I like. I'm working on writing my book every day, and I'm working towards the goal of being independent. I wish there were even more words to express how thankful I am to have come across her, unquote. What a wonderful, testimony to have from, to get from that woman, Alexandra, and hearing things like that just makes everything that you've gone through all worth it, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%. It's like that. Nothing pays like feeling the true impact that you actually have on someone, like the deep life altering impact.
You said, quote, are you truly grateful for your life or tolerating the hand you were dealt, unquote? Being grateful and putting out good and positive energy every day into the world. I think it's just so super important. How are you grateful for all the things that you have in your life?
I teach this in my course, in my Fuel Your Fuck Yeah and Build a Damn Business Already, like my signature 8-week course. And it comes all about back to like turning your shit into gold. And it's like, if I did not go through the mental health crises, if I did not go through the heartache, if I did not go through the sisterhood wounds in friendships, like if I did not go through all the bullshit, I couldn't have come out on the other end with medicine that was unique to me. I couldn't have come out on the other end with wisdom that's applicable across the board to help other people transmute their pain into power. And it's like, I would have never got here if it wasn't for that. And then I know that sounds so annoying, especially for people that are still in the bullshit and that
Right.
haven't come out on the other end yet, because that's how I was. But it's like, it's so true. And it comes back to that trust and that surrender of like, you are where you're supposed to be, and it's all working out in divine timing. And it's just a surrender to something bigger, and like that's spirituality to me, and a trust in that. And it's like, you you are you because of what you've been through, right? And no one can replicate that. And that's why there's no such thing as like real competition when it comes down to business and it comes down to things like that. Because when you're tapped into the truth of your message and your soul and what you've been through and what you know to be true in your heart of hearts, and you express that and you shout that from the mountaintops, you can't not find your soulmate relationships, whether that's friendships, whether that's soulmate clients, whether that's partner. It's like you're already connected, because the medicine inside of them or inside of you is required by them. And it's again, it's this dance, and it's like you can't mess up a soulmate connection, but you can only a connection and how to your work again and your relationships, but you can only truly have the capacity and the propensity for the level of intimacy that it is to have a soulmate connection if you've dealt with your shit and if you've been through shit and if you've come out on the other side. Because how do you know who you are and what you're made of if you don't put that to work and to the test? Like no good story was a good story without a plot, without a conflict. And so if we look at our lives in ways of, you know, the story gets to be good and better because of everything I've overcome and been through and who I've evolved into throughout that process, it's like it can't not be good because it all had to happen to get here.
Tell us a little bit about your workshop, the fundamentals of fueling your fuck yeah, please.
So this is my it's one of the bonus modules in my signature program, but I sell it individually because I mean, my whole thing, my whole brand is called, Fuel Your Fuck Yeah. And like, stop doing shit you hate and fuel your fuck yeah. Because for so long, I mean, I chiropractic, not that I hated it, but like you could argue that while I was in it at the end, I was like, oh my God, fuck this. Like, this is not it. Like, yeah, I'm helping people, but not in a way like just like if you are wheelchairing people, handicapped people across the street all day, yeah, you're helping people, but like, are you not so fucking bored? Unless that's your passion, right? Like,
Right.
unless that's what you love
Right.
and you just love like helping the disabled, and that's what you've been through and you have a personal connection to it, whatever. But it's like you can help people and be of service and still be completely unfulfilled. And there is a certain level of selfishness and self-awareness and relationship with your own spirit and your own soul that is required to live a fuck yeah life, right? And that's in all categories. That's like, I actually like my life. Like, I actually like the people I hang out with. I actually like how I feel and look in my body. I actually like how I get to wake up and participate in every day. I don't have a calendar, alert like, oh, counting down to this vacation, like, thank God, like, happy hump day, thank God it's Friday. Like, you're not consistently trying to escape your shit. And so the fundamentals of fueling your fuck yeah is like, what does it actually mean to live a fuck yeah life? What does it mean in regards, especially to your actual needs, your needs and your everyday life, your wants, like what do you actually want, which is a little bit about a different than a need, and what are your true deep desires? And this and differentiating those three things and how you learn to develop the skill of discernment of what do I need and want in my body, in my spirit, in my soul, in my mind, in my emotions. And again, it's that reverse engineering, and it's a roadmap of creating that comprehensive vision of asking yourself the hard fucking questions and figuring out how to navigate, how to get there. And it's just like, if it's not a fuck yeah, why are you doing it? Like, stop. And it's like people need that, like, hammered in their head. And so it's like a recoding.
Have you, I mean, people that have gone through your workshop, I mean, I know you've had to gotten some great results with people.
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of it, then this is what's so funny about so much of personal development and like spiritual, up leveling your spirituality and things like that. It's like everyone already knows this deep down, but no
Sure.
one's fucking talking about it, or not enough people are talking about it. And so it's like people are like, well, I knew, but like it's like they're using me or my workshop as permission to actually go for it because they don't have the self-trust to give themselves permission. And it's this overcoming of, permission is not required. Like permission is granted. Like go do what you want to do. Like it's fine. Like you like do it, but it's become this thing that's just like this profound permission slip for people to say yes to the things that they actually give a fuck about, that they weren't letting themselves. It's like they're like, oh, I was actually like, no one's stopping me. Like I'm stopping me. It's like, yeah. And you already knew that though. And they know that they knew that, but it's like, it's that nudge that they need. I mean, I do a little bit of patting on the back, but I do a lot more kicking in the butt. So
And I think people need that.
yeah,
There's been enough patting on the back.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They only get you so far.
exactly. Quote, but in the quiet moments, when you are alone with yourself, with your heart, you know there is a melody that keeps playing, that keeps asking you to listen, because we were meant to feel alive, to feel thrilled, to feel pleasure, to feel electric. Yes, to feel. That's what it's all about in the end, unquote. Absolutely. What does that melody sound like to you?
I mean, for me, I'm living it, I'm doing it. It's like for so long, it's like I was, they say that you were your client 2 years ago, right? So for so long I knew I had to leave chiropractic, right? And I wasn't doing it. And I was like, but I don't know what to do, so I don't know what the fuck I need to be doing right now, but it's not this. And like I said, I followed the breadcrumbs. But I mean, for me and for the next level of where I'm going, it's like scaling my business even more, continuing to produce content and workshops and programs and coaching containers that continue to pull people out of that disempowered, that victim, and transcend them into that creator, that radical, responsible individual who gets to live the life that they want to live. And so it's me standing in my message a little bit deeper, but also doing my work a little bit more nomadically and getting to and kind of going back to my roots of my interest and fascination with religion and with how religion has influenced culture and like throughout the whole world. And so getting to go travel, and my favorite thing to do is to learn. We already established this. I love to learn. Is to synthesize that information, to break down complex topics, and to teach it. That's my favorite thing to do. So that's what I do a lot of the times, just in my course and with my coaching. But I want to take that to the next level where I get to go learn about these ancient like religious teachings and spiritual teachings of different parts of the world, and how that's influenced and shaped our understanding of intimacy and loyalty and honesty and harmony, and how that so like filters down into the secular world. And so like how we actually value intimacy in our everyday, or honesty, or these different value sets, and how we get to choose into what we value and what we give a fuck about, and just providing more and more clarity about how people can step into a deeper fuck yeah life by using the teachings of religions and culture throughout the world. And so the next thing I'm coding myself and up leveling to is doing my work while traveling abroad and getting to go learn actually in an academic setting, in like going on tours, like actually learning like a little student, and then processing that, synthesizing it, and using all that content to up level the value that I add to my clients and my courses and my programs.
What are the most important lessons that you've learned in your life?
I know I've said it a million times, but it's like it's taking it, transcending the victim to the creator is that's it. It's disempowerment to empowerment. That shift, that your whole life will change. That's the main thing. Turning the shit into gold, turning like turning the bullshit into shit that you love. And I think what comes with that a little bit is honoring your truth, trusting yourself, and you can't lose if you're being honest and trusting of the thing that your heart is telling you. And so a lot of the times what your heart is telling you is that it's breaking and you're going through the terror and the darkness and the bad place. And then you have to listen to that, because that's the path that eventually guides you towards the path of like learning from it and like overcoming the darkness and seeing the light at the other end, and then turning on your own light and being able to turn on the light of other people. And that's how we light up the world. And like, that's why I love soul driven, passion driven entrepreneurship so much. It's like people that have actively figured out how to turn on their light, and then they go make that their work to help other people do the same sort of thing. And I think when it comes to turning on your light and living in your truth and living in your fuck yeah, it's like these two principles that are really important to me. And I'm stealing this terminology from Burning Man. For anyone who's listening who knows about Burning Man, you'll know when I say, but radical participation and radical responsibility. It's like, you have got to take radical responsibility for your shit. Again, plays back into everything I just said: victim to creator, disempowered to empowered. You got to take radical responsibility. Like, it's you, it's all you, it's always been you. And you got to radically participate to get to the next level. It's not just going to happen for you. Like, you got to go. That's the kick in the butt. And it's like, take responsibility and then like use that as fuel to fire your rocket ship to get to wherever you want to go.
How can people find you and follow you on social media, or get in contact with you if they like to work with you?
So my website is pretty obsolete at this point. So if you find it, you can definitely contact me on there. It's just my name, alexandratrevisan.com. However, that if anyone does come across it, know that that was back when I was only doing passion and purpose coaching. And I have evolved since then into more brand and business coaching. So a more appropriate way would be on LinkedIn or Facebook. And my name is Alexandra Trevisan. And Instagram, which is the @Alexandra Trev. It's just a shortened version of my last name.
Your story is such a great one to share. And, from starting off in college and first going into psychology and then switching gears to become a chiropractor. And then finally, you have a booming practice, you're making good money. You did something very few people would do. And because you didn't want to live an ordinary life, you closed up shop, moved back home, went after your goals and your dreams. And, the easy way would have been to stay complacent in your life. And, because you, like I said, making good money and, had a practice going, and you took the harder way. And I know that story, it must resonate a lot with the people that you work with. And because if you can do it and you can guide them and you can show them how they can do it too in their lives. And it's just a wonderful story. So I'm so glad you came on today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate your thought-driven questions.
Thank you. I will talk to you soon. You take care.
Sounds good.
Thanks.